As an Americoid, I didn't want to make a react video of this the instant it happened. I mean, I'm not so well versed in the UK's politics to begin with, but also it's kind of like just reacting to, I don't know, an internet historian video on the same day it drops or something. It's just sort of tacky, really. And frankly, I had never even heard of Rupert Lowe until this came out. I had never heard the word Quango until he said it in this video, which, I mean, it was exactly what I assumed it was after looking it up. But all the same, I felt like I should give it a little bit of time to mellow so I could kind of understand it a bit more. And yeah, it's I mean, it's interesting. I do think that he's going to have a tough time with the level of hardline of the immigration. I mean, I don't have a problem with it, but I think a lot of people will. That said, you know, it lines itself up pretty well with the USA, especially with this speech just given by Marco Rubio in Munich. That's just very good timing here for Lowe. But I'm just going to go over the video real quick because why not?
I have chosen to speak to you today from the farm because places like this represent what proper Britain is about. Hard work, responsibility, effort, duty, stewardship. This is the England I know, and this is the England that I love.
Now, when I first heard that as an Americoid, it didn't really strike me very deeply, but thinking about it more and more, like, farms aren't a distinctly British thing, though the weather may be. Yet, filming on a farm, it still seemed like pure optics to me, at first glance, but the greater message of hard work is deeply ingrained in his ideals, and, at least in regards to his motives, hard work is the truth about what needs to be done. The simple concept of a farm is a great example of hard work creating a tangible, peaceful, meaningful life. And while a farm may not afford any meaningful symbolism to youths, who are likely to lean left anyway due to the internet, it's a perfect metaphor of what was, and a threat of what will soon no longer be, a spur to motivate the British into action. This is a mentality, I think, that works best in times where people truly believe that they are on the brink. The question is if enough of them actually believe that. This is a desperate action of forcing a 24-hour workday in a city management game, knowing that it will build up stress and that something has to happen before that stress hits a boiling point. Some have lost track of time. Some have no perception of it. Those who have not realized how late the hour is may scoff upon hearing Lowe's grim message. And again, the question is, can Lowe convince the people that they are on the brink? He shares dire news and will be refuted by those who don't want to hear it, who don't want to believe it, who don't want to deal with it. But his message does come upon the 11th hour, and he will find many willing to listen, many willing to work hard.
On a farm, you don't think in election cycles or headlines or polling. You think in seasons. You think in generations, in what you leave behind to those who come after you. And that's why, here on the farm, I am now launching Restore Britain as a national political party. I'm now going to dedicate my life to finding, organising, funding, and providing hundreds of qualified candidates to present to the British people at the next general election. This process has already started, with invitations being issued to patriots in aligned political parties, Reform, the Conservatives, the SDP, Advance, and more. In local politics, we will work in partnership with localised political parties, such as Great Yarmouth First, that have the best interests of their residents at heart, combining our forces at the next general election. The men and women standing for Restore in that election will not be politicians. I promise you that. They will not be failed ministers. They will not be tainted by failures of the past. They will be from business, from the military, from science, from medicine, from education, from industry, representing real communities up and down the country. Every single one will be from well outside the existing political establishment, and every single one will understand the difficult decisions that need to be taken. Because there are no easy fixes. I'm not going to tell you comforting lies about the condition of our country. I have only ever been honest with the British people, and I will be straight with you now. What is necessary will be incredibly painful. But for the first time in a very long time, voters will have a genuine alternative which is truthful with them about the scale of what now has to be done. The first priority.
Now, for the most part, these are the kinds of promises that I think every party, especially new parties, would make, and I think it'll be very difficult to follow through on. They're basically promising a brand new government with no politicians, but they become politicians the instant they become the government, and even if they can find qualified people from all of these different things, education, medicine, military, etc., even if they could find qualified and capable people to do these roles in government, people who can actually be like crossed over from one position to another and fulfill it, it's that's already a pretty high bar. But then these people, they're all going to have a massive flashlight shown upon their past, and I suspect a good amount of them will be canceled through one scandal or another. So that's going to be real hit or miss. There's going to be a bumpy road for sure. But he does pin the hard work and difficult aspects to the end of it. So he sort of bolsters that message a little bit. Like you know that it's going to be a bit iffy, but he's just straight up telling you, like, yeah, it's gonna suck, but that's the way it's got to be.
The first priority is to control who comes to our country, and more importantly, who stays in our country. Restore Britain will not just stop mass immigration, we will reverse it. Every single illegal migrant will be securely detained and then deported. The message will be unrelenting. If you are in this country without our permission, you will be removed.
Now it gets juicy. Immigration. Promising the ceasing of mass immigration goes without saying for any group without a blue-tinted tongue, as does the extraction of illegals. But then he says unrelenting. It's not quite as powerful a word as or, which we'll get to pretty soon, but it's spine-tingling all the same. The unrelenting persecution of illegals. Sounds familiar.
For the foreseeable future, far more people must leave Britain than arrive. If a foreign national is unable to speak English, lives in social housing, claims benefits, refuses to work, fails to integrate, commits crime, or even actively hates our way of life and wishes to do us harm, then they must leave or be made to leave. Restore Britain will make our communities safe again for women and children. That I promise you. If that means millions go, then millions go.
Now we get spicy. If a foreign national is unable to speak English, lives in social housing, claims benefits, refuses to work, fails to integrate, commits crime, or even actively hates our way of life and wishes to do us harm, then they must leave or be made to leave. He's not making a list here. This isn't a rap sheet. It's not like you must do A and B and C. He said or. It's not all of the above. It's anything, right down to simply hating the country, hating the people. And that's the way it should be. If they hate the country, they will never be able to assimilate. There's no ifs and buts. It's just or. Assimilate or. And then he says, if that means millions go, then millions go. Chef's kiss. I know loads of English must have loved that, along with him stating that he doesn't care if people label him a racist. It reminds me in a way of Trump telling Mamdani that it's okay if he calls Trump a fascist when the press pressured him about it.
Are you affirming that you think President Trump is a fascist?
I've spoken about...
That's okay. You can just say yes.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's easier. It's easier.
It's like brute forcing your way through a spell, just using physical bulk to completely ignore some CC spell that's cast on you. Just tell them that you don't care about their accusation. And then they lose their power. Now I'm going to crank the speed up a little bit here because it's a bit of a long part, and I think everyone's probably seen it anyway. So
We're constantly told that the economy needs vast swathes of low-skilled migrants. We know that's simply not true. What we need is to get millions of healthy Brits back into work. A radical overhaul of how welfare is delivered. Protecting those in genuine need, but not funding healthy shirkers to live off the back of hard-working men and women. If you can work, you must work. It really is that simple. Restore Britain will be abundantly clear. If you consistently refuse work, then you will lose your benefits. We will punish indolence, and more importantly, we will reward success. We will provide vast economic incentives for men and women to start businesses, generate opportunities, build wealth, and create self-sufficient families. Standing here today on the farm, I know exactly what it means to deal with energy bills, labour shortages, regulation, unproductive paperwork, planning restrictions, tax, and endless uncertainty. The state has definitively become the enemy of the people. Restore Britain will burn away suffocating taxes on work and enterprise. We will slash unnecessary regulation. We will dismantle bloated quangos and the overbearing HR culture. We must crush parasitic Britain. We will restore long-term, stable, logical policy so that businesses can plan and invest and grow again.
So a lot of this stuff, I think you'd expect any group to say. Again, especially like newer groups or groups that are out of power and trying to gain it, promising to tidy things up and make the country's oversight cleaner and more productive. Technically meaningless until we see it in action, because pretty much everything's going to say this, but it's worth pointing out his redundancy in stating that you must work, that hard work, again, is the mainline aspect of this party's message. Despite how much people hate working, they do like belonging to things, and nothing makes you feel like you belong quite like a war. And since there's no current war, honest work, feeling like you're improving the country is a great alternative promise.
Restore Britain is about much more than numbers on a spreadsheet. It's about who we are as a nation and who we are as a people. Britain is not just an economy. Britain is not just an idea. Britain is not just a passport. Britain is a nation. Britain is a people, our people, and Restore Britain will never allow that to be erased. We will.
Another poignant reiteration of what center and right-wing people already believe, reaffirming the ideal that the country does not belong to anyone who wants a piece of the pie, that it's an inheritance, one that critics will undoubtedly deny, though they don't suffer quite the drawback with this message as the USA has, for obvious reasons. Even still, they have been, are, and will continue to be accused of racism and xenophobia and whatever else for doing what they think needs to be done to protect their country. And it should be noted that this is only being done after allowing the country to change into a shadow of its former self. The pendulum will swing back heavily, possibly too far in some cases, but this too is partially the fault of those who let it get so bad in the first place.
Celebrate our Christian heritage and the identity that built and shaped this country. Responsibility, restraint, forgiveness, duty, and fairness. In short, a high-trust society.
Now, tacking religion onto this is predictable for the right wing, especially in this climate, but it's worth mentioning again that this ties in heavily with Rubio's Munich speech, which mentioned Christianity on a far broader and unexpected scale. I mean, that was a much bigger kind of scope that he was going for here than a right-wing British person talking to Britain. And then Lowe reiterates the tenets of responsibility, restraint, forgiveness, duty, and fairness. I think chiefly amongst those, for me anyway, is forgiveness, a concept nearly forgotten. We live in an era where even the alleged progressives swear to pass laws that retroactively turn people into criminals, to persecute them once the Democrats have come to power. This is directly due to how far our societies have fallen. As he mentions, a high-trust society here. Our systems have been abused, not just by immigrants with different cultures, not just by people who come from other countries, right? But by our newer generations of people, newer generations of natural-born citizens who were not raised to be, in his particular case, a member of the UK, but in my case, a member of the USA. These natural-born citizens who are different from the previous generation and different from the ones before that. They don't really fit in, and that's a problem that needs to be changed as well. This is not entirely a democratic flaw, to be fair. It's been like this for generations. It's just constantly spiraling downwards, and we need to rebuild that high-trust society.
That will mean defending our culture. That will mean resisting the relentless creep of radical Islam. That will mean banning the burqa, outlawing Sharia law, blocking cousin marriages, and reimposing our Christian-based rule of law. A Restore Britain government would legislate to ensure that no halal or kosher slaughter on British soil.
Now, that's mostly political optics here. I mean, technically it's grander than that, as religion exists to spread and spread the power of the nations that worship that religion. So the narrative is still strongly intertwined with his message of deporting violent immigrants who are abusing women and children. It's not like banning the burqa is going to get him any more votes, but it's fair enough to be explicit with it. After all, people should know what they're voting for.
This is Britain, and we will do things our way. This political party now exists for one reason: to restore Britain, to make it a better, safer, and more prosperous place for British men and women to raise their families. It will be difficult, and it will be painful, but I assure you, it is possible. I hope you will consider joining me on this journey and becoming a member of our party. It is our country, it is now our collective responsibility to act. Together, we will restore Britain. Thank you.
Right, and there he just doubles down on pretty much the entire message, actually. Britain for the British, anti-immigration and anti-Muslim, hard work sold as a good thing through the concept of the British and solidarity, working towards a brighter and better tomorrow. It's bland and as ancient as it is dystopian, but I've played Scrandal enough times to know that this works with the British. They love their meat pies and mushy peas inundated in brown sauce. It might turn my stomach to see that, but this is their version of Freedom Franks, which, honestly, after reading that they were fruit-flavored, it's pretty repulsive even as an American, but you get the point. It's a strong finale with a bold message. Now, I'm tempted to make a more in-depth video on some of his views, as I don't think all of this is worded perfectly well, and it leaves the door open to detractors, but I do think he has a decent chance, given the current climate, especially in tandem with the backing from the USA and Marco Rubio's speech and all of that, to win. But I think his stance might be a little bit too strong for certain people, unless he finds a way to embolden their spirits. Even then, reform appears to be quite in line with the USA as well, so it's hard to guess. Some think it will split the votes, as if that will let another party win, like a leftist party or whatever. And sick as it is, it may even be better for the left to win, just so the UK can get that much worse. I know that's like twisted to say, but the only reason the right is even making headway right now is by using brute force tactics of talking about sexual violence. If they were just talking about burqas and halal slaughter, the average person wouldn't care. They'd likely just say it's xenophobic and racist, and it would set the right wing back even further. But if you add protect kids to the narrative, if you add protect women to the narrative, well, simpletons love that because it's easy for them to understand. The average person needs it laid bare in front of their eyes. They actually have to see the thing happen. So if Restore wins, great. If the vote is split and the left wins, well, that may be inevitably necessary. Time will tell. It'll be interesting to see. I'm rooting for him. Thanks for watching.